very interesting pieces we need to talk about the national security or biomedical security state. But I'd like to start with this Laura Loomer ad, which is quite powerful and is now running throughout New York. Let's play the ad and we'll get Dr. Malone's response.
Mommy, I don't want to get it. Mommy, I'm not sick. Mommy, please, I'm scared. I'm sorry, baby. I wish I had a choice.
The CDC is recommending the COVID-19 vaccine for all school children. If Democrat Kathy Hochul gets elected as governor of New York, you may no longer have a say in your child's health. On November 8th, vote for parental rights. Vote Republican. Paid for by American Liberty Fund. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Dr. Malone, let me ask you your observation of this. This is really getting now down into the nitty-gritty of particularly the gubernatorial and congressional politics. Give me your assessment of that ad.
So I'm really glad to see that this is being formally approached by Republican candidates, because so much of the Republican Party has acted as if they want to pretend like this is a non-issue, when it's a hot button issue for a large fraction of the population, particularly the base that's represented with MAGA. And I'm so grateful for what you've done, Steve, and what the War Room has done to wake people up about the risks of these products and the corruption that's occurred all the way through the Health and Human Services Department. So this is an interesting ad. I love the tonals there that were evoking Game of Thrones and the Iron Throne, but it's not my style, a little hyperbolic, but I'm glad to see that the topic is being brought forward by important candidates, and I think it needs to be featured more.
You know, the three I's, we had inflation, immigration, and injections were the third. The Wall Street Journal reported this morning there's been a 28-point shift within 60 days, 28-point shift with white suburban women. This was supposed to be with the Democratic Party basic control. I think we're up 15 now. A lot of that, as Cortez and I have talked about, is what the parental rights movement is also has become an anti-vax, anti-injection. And it's not because these people are.
And the transsexual.
Go ahead.
There's so many hot buttons that are hammering that key demographic for the Democratic Party, the swing suburban voter. You recall, Steve, we talked about this last fall, that if they didn't get their act together, they were going to lose suburban women and African Americans and probably a fraction of the youth because of these mandates. And by God, here we are.
Well, let's talk about that, because it's part of the campaign. It's not talked about. One of the things that we noticed a couple of months ago and started tracking closely was there was no positive ads for Fauci. Fauci is supposed to be a guy that was had saved the nation. But literally in none of these Democratic districts or even the Senate races were they promoting, we beat COVID. The mandates ended everything. Fauci's
we beat COVID by giving Pfizer $100 billion.
And all this positive, nothing, total crickets. And now you're starting to see negative ads that are actually getting traction. I agree with that. If it's a little hyperbolic, it's because the last 6 days of a campaign takes a lot to break through the noise of all the other ads. What's your sense there? Do you see them actually taking a position where they're bragging about or trying to take ownership of what they've done with the pandemic so far?
No, it was the contrary. And I caught your commentary the other day about the Atlantic Monthly.
They put Dr. Fauci in the closet.
Can't we all just get along and forgive and forget? This
Democrats are homophobic. They put Dr. Fauci back in the closet.
And forgive the many guilty parties that have promoted this very aggressive censorship, propaganda, defamation campaign.
Oh yeah, the Democrats want to forgive
people to take
anybody who made a bad decision on COVID because they're going, quote unquote, the speed of science.
The chickens are coming home to roost on that. He's
quoted Reverend Wright.
Proceeding.
Obama's pastor chickens are coming home to roost.
God's willing, we're going to have that red wave. I've seen some fantastic memes about that, by the way. Donald Trump as Bob Ross painting a red wave was I think a super one.
I gotta go look that one up.
If what comes to pass next week is what we're all hoping for, and people get off their rear ends and vote, then things are going to get really interesting in terms of legal cases, hearings, etc. We even had the presumptive leader of the House now finally turning and saying, well,
folks,
conceding that he
this
will allow
episode of Bannon's War Room
and of course,
is the
Dr. Fauci
first
is on the
part
at the top of the list
Nuremberg 2.0.
that we want to hear
Not
from.
just Dr. Robert Malone talking here, but the next doctor.
This explosive, the Missouri case, I guess Landry in Louisiana and Schmidt. Now Schmidt's running for the Senate in Missouri, but as Attorney General, Landry also has announced he's running for governor of Louisiana for next year. These two have had this situation where you now know everything about DHS. You have been one of the targets that people have tried to destroy. Naomi Wolf, yourself, with this combination of a government, big tech oligarchs, as Natalie Winters discovered in her research and investigation, J.P. Morgan Bank.
And I suspect,
because this is
Steve. I suspect. I only sense this. I don't know this. But I sense the heavy hand of Pfizer behind all of this. There's some entity that has an amazing global reach, a huge amount of capital and resources, and the ability to pull off a propaganda campaign, the likes of which the world has never seen before, at least the Western world hasn't. And I think when we eventually get to the root of this, we're going to see pharmaceutical industry hand behind a lot of this as the puppet master.
But let's talk about your writings. I mean, because you've been one of the targets of this, and now we see Fauci's he's got to be deposed. I think before the end of the month of November.
Let me break in here. If that Robert Malone is correct, and I think he is, if that's true, I think they're going to use the same PR firm that they did with George Bush Sr. coming up with the reason to go into Iraq. They used the largest PR firm in the world. It's called Hill and Knowlton in Washington, D.C., and they have another office in New York City and others around in the world, and the capitals like Paris and London. Hill and Knowlton was the one who came up with remember the little girl who testified before Congress about the incubators being thrown on the floor, who ended up being the daughter of the ambassador of Kuwait? Well, that PR was the award-winning Oscar winner of false flag operation PRs. And I think that is who is behind all of this, along with Pfizer. That's who Pfizer hired to do the propaganda. Now back to Dr. Robert Malone.
And that leads into all these investigations. Natalie's going to join us momentarily, but it's going to lead into all these investigations that, as you said, the presumptive Speaker of the House has already talked about. In fact, they're kicking off with a press conference, a joint press conference between Oversight and Judiciary, which is very unusual, Monday, the 14th, to talk about the Hunter Biden laptop. And we know that they're working behind the scenes on the vertical that deals with Fauci and the Wuhan lab and all of that. So what is your sense about what you've seen in this apparatus they set up to essentially destroy the likes of Naomi Wolf, Dr. Robert Malone, the War Room, and others from actually speaking the truth, or just giving the American people additional information they should have?
So thanks for that lead in. And there was a stunning paper published just yesterday on the 1st